on your job with US Sailing.
Thanks. I know I've been here for quite some time now, even. I know. Well, Yona, I think you and I feel like I've talked to you probably about books or something like that. A lot of what I do is in our e-commerce US Sailing store here. But if not, probably in passing elsewhere.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, thrilled to chat today.
Me
Can't
too.
wait to hear all about the trip. I'm so happy that we know someone who went. Was kind of like a shot in the dark of, hey, pass this on to the sailing community. So I'm thrilled and I can't wait to hear all about it. And I guess, floor is yours. Tell us how it went.
Sure. How much time do we have, by the way?
However
Do you
much you
want?
like. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, this really was like a trip of serendipity on many, many different levels. Like
Yeah.
the way things worked out and how things worked out, like you couldn't plan something like that. I'm gonna start off with that. So I guess I'll start off with how it came to be and then what happened on the trip.
Perfect.
Okay. So I'm at Hudson River Community Sailing, and the season's starting up again. So we have our welcome back orientation, and Jay, who you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
says, Yona, I sent you an email. This thing, I don't know what it's about, but it sounds like it's really up your alley. So I'm an occupational therapist and I'm an
Mhm.
adaptive sailing instructor. And
Awesome.
the orientation comes and goes. I go home and check my email, and I'm like, Jay's right. My goodness, it just sounds too good to be true, though. Like Bulgaria, what? Like, where did that come out?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find stuff online. I can't find anything on
Mhm.
it. Um, and by the way, you may hear a little music in the background. I'm in a kind of cafeteria place.
Yeah. All good.
Um, uh, if it's a neat place called Ali Ali. Um, so um, so I look at it and I can't find anything on the internet about it. Nothing at all. And it just sounds too good to be true, and it sounds like there's something just so unusual about it. But it came from Jay, and I looked your name up on the U.S. Sailing website. There you were. So there's some legitimacy, two levels at least. So I send in my application. On the application, they ask me for my passport and all that stuff. And I keep picturing this like some guy in a Eastern European basement trying to get my passport, like, like, um, but again, it came through you, came through Jay. I send everything in, and within a couple of days, this happens over spring break, right? And I work in the schools here in New York City.
Mhm.
Within a couple of days, I get a reply. You're accepted. Congratulations! And I'm like, this has to be like
Yeah.
a con job, Not there's not even an interview. Like what the heck?
Yeah.
So, um, I looked at their they had a link. You can set up a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting to do an interview, to meet them.
Mhm.
I set that up, and I contacted the State Department separately. I found their website, and I said, "Do you have a sports exchange sponsored by PH International leaving New York? I'm sorry, leaving the states June 8th to June 20th, I think were the dates, to
Mhm.
Bulgaria." And they responded yes. I'm like, okay,
So you're surprised.
so I'm surprised. Um, so I try to get some more information, and I know that the biggest at this point I have enough information to say, okay, let's move forward. Um, I know that the biggest obstacle in this whole process is going to be the New York City Department of Education because I just knew it instinctively, but I wouldn't know how much of an obstacle it would be. So in the whole process, so school starts up again after spring break. I submit to my principal and supervisors this thing, hey guys, over spring break, I got accepted to this trip to Bulgaria. Can I go? It's during the school year. It's not going to impact our students because it's Regents Week. Um, and they're like, Bulgaria? Everybody, I mean, that's everybody's response. Bulgaria,
Mm.
what Bulgaria? Um, so, you know, they say, well, there's this whole runaround. You know, the supervisor's not comfortable with it, so she passes it up the chain. Up the chain says they don't know. They would do it with the principal's approval. The principal says he'll do it with the supervisor's approval. It's a
Mm.
bureaucratic nightmare.
Yeah.
I apply, they reject it, right?
Mm.
The New York City Department of Ed rejects this sports exchange education opportunity.
Mm. Yeah.
And then they say, we advise that you contact the Conflict of Interest Board. So I contact the Conflict of Interest Board at the New York City Department of Ed. And they say, yep, because it's fully paid for by the State Department, we can't just approve it. It has to go through us. I'm like, okay, tell me what to do. They said, fill out this application. And I wound up submitting a 27-page application to the Conflict of Interest Board.
Oh my God.
You know, with right, but part of that application is I had to give an hour by hour itinerary of what we're doing, where we're going to go, who we're going to talk with, who, you know, how much everything's going to cost each hotel, who's
Mm.
paying for what, right? So I need more information. And I call up James,
Mhm.
who's your buddy, right,
Yeah.
from back in school.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get him right away. So I see on one of his email signatures there's a cell number. So I
Mm.
called his cell, and he answers the phone, and he's just a nice guy, you know, like a
Mm.
very sweet guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, and I happen to be in New York at this time, right? I said, really? Where are you? And he's like, I'm at the Chinese embassy because he's dropping something off
Yeah.
that he has to do in person at the Chinese embassy. And I'm like, well, that's just like maybe not even 10 blocks from where I live.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you know, I'm feeling gratefulness in my heart, right? I'm feeling
Mm.
like I just want to do something for this guy who made this
Yeah.
opportunity possible. So I'm thinking like it's New York City. What do people want to do in New York? Maybe I can take him to the Statue of Liberty or up to the
Mhm.
the new Freedom Tower or the Edge, whatever else. And he's not
Mm.
thrilled by any of these ideas. But then I said, I know. How about I take you sailing
Oh,
on the
I love
Hudson
this.
River, right? Because the reason why, you know, in one of the phone conversations with them, why they just jumped at the opportunity. Both James and
Mhm.
Keenan, who is the leader of the program, both their
Yeah.
wives are occupational therapists.
Mm.
And the fact that I have a sailing background also, there was maybe one or two people on the trip that had sailing backgrounds,
Oh,
and
wow.
there was an adaptive sailing, unified and adaptive sailing
Yeah.
component to this trip,
Yeah.
right? So they wanted somebody with a sailing background and then an occupational therapist with the
Mhm.
unified sports thing. They were like, that's why we want you, you know? I was like, cool. So um, James is like, sure, let's go sailing.
Let's do it.
I've never done it before, but and by the way, I have a boot on my foot because I have a skiing incident. But I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm an adaptive sailing instructor. I can handle a
Yeah,
boot.
we can do that.
So I call up Hudson River Community Sailing, which is that's my home
Yeah.
club, U.S. Sailing Home Club, and I'm like, we got to get a boat ready. We've got. There
Mhm.
has to be a boat available. You know, this guy's coming into town. It's a big deal. You know, and I don't know that it's a big deal. It just felt like it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So Connor at HRCS was like, great, we got a boat for you, Yona. And, I called the union because I was working that night downtown. And I'm like, sorry, I can't come in tonight. You got to cover my
Yeah.
appointment, somebody else. So I called James back and he's like, I think this was through text or something. And I'm like, we got a boat, 5 o'clock. Here's the address of the boathouse. I'm excited to see you. And he's like, great. So we meet down at the boathouse, and then this is where the serendipity start is. You
Mhm.
probably have been seeing it throughout the story, but
Yeah.
now at the Boathouse, it happens to be that Don Wrightson, who's the head of the adaptive program at HRCS, is
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
So I got to introduce James to Don, and they got to talk a little bit about our adaptive program and what's going to happen in Bulgaria and all this other kind of stuff. Nobody quite knows because
Yeah.
it happened fast, but so it was really nice that like all the there was like divine intervention. All the pieces were in place with minimum, like they just
Yeah.
were falling into place. So James comes. He says, "I'm going to bring a friend." He brings his teacher friend, okay,
Mhm.
from uptown New York, and Inwood or something. And I take him out sailing. We're on the Hudson River. And this whole time we're like, "Oh, we can't believe how cool this is! It's so cool, it's so cool." Like over and over again. I'm saying it too. Like you
Yeah.
can't believe it.
Yeah.
Um, but it was happening, and then they had a wonderful sail. They had a
Mhm.
dinner engagement after that, so we came back to the mooring, sent them off to have their dinner, and I'm just feeling this wonderful feeling the whole time. So eventually, um, you know, the whole deal, and I got what I needed from James. I got the
Mhm.
itinerary, the hour by hour itinerary,
Yes.
and all
Yeah.
that, and submitted it to my 27-page application to the Conflict of Interest Board. They say we approve it, which was amazing,
Miraculous at this point.
miraculous. However, you have to, Yona, you have to use your vacation days in order to go. We're not going to approve it like fully
Mhm.
as continuing ed because we don't want people to think they can just run off to Bulgaria, you know?
Mm.
So it was bittersweet, right? Like we got these, they made everybody, the DOE made everybody work during spring break
Mm.
when there was the COVID pandemic.
Mhm.
And an arbitration ruling said that because we had to work during our vacation, we got vacation days, very limited, only 7, that we could
Mm.
use at any time in the future.
Nice.
And so they said to me, well, once you use them, you use them. You never get them back.
Yeah.
Um, so they said to me, you have to use your vacation days to go. So I said, you know what? I will go. I will use my vacation days if I have to. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Mm.
Um, so I paid the price.
Yeah.
and I used my vacation days. And it was approved by the Conflict of Interest Board and everything like that, and the principal and the supervisor. And it went all the way up to the deputy chancellor, who's she has a Special Olympics background, and she was
Oh,
excited
cool.
about it. So with this,
Yeah.
it was like it was such a pain in the, but we made it happen. Okay, now we're having so now comes the fun stuff. So we have this, we had a couple of Zoom meetings with Keenan leading up, and I participated in my Zoom meetings like either like right after a sailboat race on the Hudson, so
Mm.
they see the New York City background, and like people are getting like the vibe and everything. And I just say I'm so excited to learn about the sailing aspect of what we're doing. Um, and we had our meetings, and then the trip happened. So I fly. Everybody flies to Boston. We meet in Boston.
Mhm.
We meet at the airport, and I get there, and there were some flight problems and this and that, but that's not important. We meet at the airport, and we get on the plane. Everybody gets together, and we start and we fly from Boston to where do we go? We stop somewhere in Europe, and then we switch flights to go to Sofia. I think we
Mhm.
stopped at Frankfurt,
Mhm.
Germany, and then we went to Sofia. And so this is a 9-day, 10-day trip, right? I had to take 9 days from work, 7 from my vacation, two they gave me as professional development.
Nice.
First day in Sofia, we get picked up by we have our own private bus. It's like a beautiful big bus, and they said it was the same price. So PH International is given the money by the State Department, and
Yeah.
it's up to them to organize everything. We get picked up by the bus. We have our own driver. We have two professional interpreters that joined us through the whole thing.
Nice.
And our personal guide she is a Fulbright scholar, and she's the director of the adaptive program at their National Sports Academy, NSA. They take
Very
their
cool.
sports very seriously. They
Yeah.
have a unit, like to be a coach in Bulgaria, you have to get a university degree. Yeah, a bachelor's to become a coach, and then you have to get a master's in whatever sport you're coaching. So
Wow.
it's very serious. So the head of the adaptive sports program of Bulgaria is our personal guide through this whole trip.
Wow.
And she was a very tall lady. Her thing was adaptive basketball. So they pick us up at the airport. They bring us to the hotel. We shower, do whatever, have our first dinner, and we talk about what's going to happen the next day. So the first day, the following day, the first full day that we're there, we do adaptive horseback ride. Adaptive and unified horseback ride. And they bring us to this beautiful facility in the countryside outside of Sofia. And I'm watching, they bring us through all these horses, and I have very limited exposure to horses. I think I rode one years ago when we did a trip to Panama or something like that.
Yeah.
But we walk through, and these horses are just so sweet. I don't know if you've met them. It's just wonderful. Like, and they're showing us how they work with people with disabilities. They brush the horses. And I'm thinking this whole time, yeah, I learned about hippotherapy in my OT program, but now I'm actually seeing it, and it's like therapy for me. These animals are just so sweet, and we got pictures with them, and I got lots of video. Like I got tons and like I think about 900 or so different GoPro video clips. I took a GoPro everywhere I went. Yeah. And I've already been starting to put it together a little bit. And these animals were just like they just like kind of nibble on your neck a little bit, and they like play with you. And so we took pictures with them, and we got to meet the coaches and also the athletes, the unified athletes. And see a session. They were doing all kinds of midline crossing and tactile input and trunk stability stuff and all this OT stuff. I'm like, this is amazing. And we got to ride the horses too, which is cool. So that was the horseback riding. The following day, or it might have been the same day, we participated in unified basketball training, which was also cool. We did a session. We did unified badminton.
Nice.
Right. And when they say unified, it's like it's for people who have cognitive, mental, emotional disabilities, cognitive delays. So a lot of autism.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of students with children and also young adults with autism, and then and some physical involvement as well. We did unified basketball, badminton. We did unified field hockey, where we met some of the philanthropists. We met with the embassy. We met with the head of the U.S. Embassy, and we got to tour around. We got to see. So it was part of a sports exchange, right? So they sent 10 participants here to the States to learn about adaptive sports here in the States. And then this was at the American side of it, sending Americans over there to learn from them. So we learned about how they fund things. We went to occupational and physical therapy clinic. And we went to like all sorts of amazing things like that. I still have the itinerary. I could probably send that to you if you want to see it.
Yeah, sure.
But then after all of those different things, and throughout the whole trip, um, there was a lot of cultural exposure, a lot of different
Mhm.
foods, and delicious cheeses. Oh my gosh, the cheeses were just amazing, out of this world. Like
Mhm.
there's fresh cheese and aged cheese,
Yeah.
and the yogurt, you could scoop it like with an ice cream scoop, and it stayed
Mhm.
cold. It's good stuff. But then after all of those things, the highlight of the trip, other than the horseback riding, was when we went out to Nessebar. So
Mhm.
Nessebar is the town that's on the Black Sea,
Mhm.
where the National Sports Academy has like a satellite kind of dormitory residential facility there, and it's being built up. There's a lot of fancy hotels, and then there's this old like pre-Soviet kind of communist looking building, because Bulgaria used to be
Mhm.
communist,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And they build everything very utilitarian. Like there's one room for the bathroom, and there's the shower, the sink, and the toilet all in the same room, so you can just wash it down and spray it
Yeah.
down. There's very good water pressure. It was very simple but good things.
Yeah.
Um, and so on Nessebar, we got to stay in that hotel, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And we got to participate in the adaptive water sports,
Mhm.
adaptive and unified water sports um, program. It's like a camp. So they have this camp that lasts about a week, maybe 8 or 9 days, or 10 days, 2 weeks or so. And they take people with disabilities and they put them through all these different water sports. So we got to participate in that. They do a morning warm up, and at the morning warm up, I Betsy Allison sent me a care package
Mhm.
with the U.S. sailing pendant,
Yeah.
the Burgee, and some pens and some luggage tags and some stickers. And so at the morning workout, um, and we have pictures of the whole thing. I think I sent some to her also.
Yeah.
Um, I presented the Burgee and this card that Betsy wrote, and she gave 3 autographed copies of the Adaptive Sailing Manual.
Oh wow.
um, she sent, and I presented those, and I'm like, they're like, but it's available for free online, right? I said, I know, but this is
But this is
autographed by
autographed.
the author, right? It doesn't get any better than that. So they're like, oh, thank you so much. And so I've got video of the exchange of that of that stuff, and I thank Betsy, in front of all of them. And meanwhile, the translator, the interpreter, is interpreting this, and he's like, Betsy Ellison, you know. Um, so then we go down after the warm up in the morning and the breakfast. It's they serve this. They've been serving the same breakfast since for 40
Mhm.
years. So I'm told. They don't speak English. We went up to them, and we were trying to figure out, because one of the ladies in our program, people came from all over. They were from Vermont, from New York, from Virginia, mostly the eastern seaboard, and the
Mhm.
Northeast. But that's where they were from. So this one lady from Massachusetts was she can't eat beef, so we were trying to talk to these
Mhm.
old folks in the kitchen and trying to figure out, is there beef in it? And they're like, no English, no English. So I said, I know. Is it or is it? And they all went, ah, ha, 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 yes, it's moo, and it's hong kong,
Beating the
So,
language barriers.
exactly. It was a diplomatic moment. It was definitely an exchange at that point, a cultural exchange, right? So we go down to the waterfront after that, after breakfast and after the morning warm up. There must have been probably about 100 people there, 100 participants. And we go down to the beach, and everybody's getting ready, and they have these stations set up. So they have stand-up paddleboard, They have beach activities. They have unified sailing.
Mm.
And I tried to spend as much time as I could on the sailing side of it. I did the stand-up paddleboard a little bit with them, which is great. You know, works on balance, and for autistic kids that have sensory processing difficulties, it was fantastic for them to be on the sand and on the stand-up paddleboards and to work on their balance and coordination. But then we went down to the docks for the sailing part. Now they have these like East German centerboard, like they're like 15-foot or maybe they're 17-foot centerboard boats that I wrote the name down. It has a J in it, but it's not like the J boats that we know or the Flying J's or anything. But it's a centerboard boat, and they're very, very heavy. And so I helped Stefka, who's the head of their unified and adaptive sailing program, rig the boats and, you know, get all the sails ready. And then we went for a sail. We went for several sails, and it was beautiful. It was sailing on the Black Sea. You know, mild conditions. One day the winds were up probably to about maybe 15 knots. For those little boats, that's a good amount of breeze. And so I'm looking at this whole time. I'm looking at the accessibility side of their sailing, right? Because that's the lens that I'm looking through. And I'm thinking, you know, Keenan, who is our leader, is in a wheelchair, and he's a young athlete in a wheelchair. He's fit, but you know, he's got a spinal cord injury, and he's got serious mobility limitations. So he asked me if he could come down and go for a sail with us, and I said, I'll be honest with you, Keenan, that you know the docks are not accessible, right? There's 5 big steps to go down to get down to the dock, and then the docks themselves have these like 2-inch gaps between each slot. And I was talking to Stefka about that, and you know they have a lot of pride, so I had to be very careful with how I talked about their docks. You know, and of course they explained it. So like in the winter time when the storm surge comes in, the water goes through the docks. And so maybe we can do, and so I'm thinking about this exchange side of it, and I'm talking to them. And while this whole thing happened, all right, there's all these parallel stories. Just so you know, I had an application into a doctoral program at Towson University for their occupational science program. And during this trip, I got accepted into the doctoral program.
Oh, congrats.
And thank you. And occupational science is the study of, you know, human occupation and engagement in activity. And what I'd like to do my research in is in adaptive sailing. So I'm all excited about like all these amazing things are happening in a short period of time at the same time. And so I was talking to Stefka and Mariana is the name of the lady who was our personal guide. And, you know, I told them that I got accepted into the they wanted me to study there. They wanted me to enroll in their university and study in their university. And I was like, let me first find out if I'm accepted into Towson because I have an application in, and I got accepted. So Stefka now is interested in doing maybe a comparative study on the adaptive sailing programs in Bulgaria versus the United States. So there's potential here for it to go to like next levels, like constantly. And so we're talking about the docks, and we were talking about accessibility and just like simple ways of taking their little boats and making them just a little bit more accessible. For example, when you know, when there are people who have certain mobility issues, they're stepping off the dock and into the boat. There was a big ledge, probably about six inches wide of the gunnel,
Mhm.
from the boat that they'd have to step over and then down onto the seat.
Yeah.
So I said, all you have to do is just make a little wooden box and put it on the seat to bring that up to the same level of the gunnel. So
Yeah.
you can just step over the gunnel and onto the box, then down onto the
Yeah.
seat, then down into the floor. Just make
Yeah.
make the one level into like 2 or 3 levels, and it becomes more accessible. We talked about different areas in the boat that give different levels of trunk support for people who have trunk stability and support issues. Simple ways of adapting the dock with some flooring, and possibly building a ramp. There's no way around that.
Mhm.
Um, and so they were very interested in especially in the low cost solutions like building like a little box, right?
Yeah.
But there was one moment where they brought a guy in his wheelchair. They brought him down onto the docks, and they have 5 big Bulgarians carrying this poor guy who's in a wheelchair. So one's got a leg, the other's got a leg, one's got an arm, the other's got an arm.
Mhm.
They're carrying this guy down the steps and over these slotted docks and into the boat, and they got him in there. But you know what happens when you don't have 5 big, strong Bulgarians?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
um, then you need to maybe get a Hoyer lift or
Mhm.
something, right?
Yeah.
Um, so they're very interested in developing their program, and it's a humble program. They have 3 of these little boats. They're centerboard boats. They don't have keels. Um, but again, like I said, they're heavy enough that you can move around them and not worry about them capsizing or anything.
Mhm.
So that was really a big part of the sailing was just sailing around in the little harbor. We went on a motorboat tour, which was also pretty cool. Um, and I'm excited to, and the folks at Towson are excited also about the prospect of doing a comparative study,
Yeah.
and maybe going back there. Um, Going back to Bulgaria, and working with them because they're really cool. They're great people,
Yeah.
and it's just a really neat place and good food. Um, and we did some sightseeing, right? We saw the old town of Nessebar, which was very cool. We saw the old town of Sozopol, which is also super cool. I mean, ancient Roman ruins. We went to
Mhm.
the oldest um, inhabited uh, city of Europe. That's what they say. It's called Plovdiv,
Mhm.
where the new part of town is medieval, right? So it's like medieval houses and all that. The old part of town is like Roman ruins.
Wow.
It's like a 6,000-year-old town, you
Yeah.
know.
I think you cut out for a second. What'd you say the new part of town was?
Oh, the new part of town of some of these towns like Plovdiv and Sozopol and
Yeah.
Nesebar, the new part of town is medieval.
Yeah. And the oldest ancient ruins. Wow.
Very, very old. And the older parts of town are like, Roman ruins
Wow.
and we went to museums to learn about their culture and everything like that. So it was a cultural experience, and it was definitely an exchange. Like they wanted us to learn about who the Bulgarian people were, what are their what are they doing with sport,
Mhm.
right? And unified sports in particular. That was the
Yeah.
what they wanted us to come away with, and I certainly did, and so did the other participants. There
Mhm.
was one other occupational therapist on the trip. She's actually brand new occupation. She just graduated. She hasn't taken her boards yet, but she also does sailing at the Vermont Community Sailing Program
Mhm.
on Lake Champlain, which is also
Mhm.
U.S.
Cool.
Sailing School.
Yeah.
So she was there as well. And then after that, we went back to Sofia. We spent one last night in Sofia, um, and um, it was great. Bought some gifts, some rose oil for mom, and some
Yeah.
earrings, and and one last night in Sofia, which was beautiful. And then we took the plane back, and on the way back, we stopped in Zurich, um, which is the duty free and all that, which is very cool.
Hmm. Yeah.
Brought back a couple of gifts, and then we got back to Boston somewhere around 11 o'clock at night. So they put us up in a hotel in Boston,
Nice.
and then we left the next morning. Um, and boy, the hotel breakfast in New York, I mean, in Boston, was nothing like the breakfast in Bulgaria. I mean, I'm like, sliced cheese? What is this? you know? um, but we tolerated it,
Yeah.
you know? And then I came back to New York. Everybody, came back to their own ways, and I put together a few of the videos for some 1 minute shorts with
Oh,
on my YouTube channel, um,
cool.
and I definitely am working on. It's going to be a really slow process. I don't know if you have people who are good with video editing or anything like that who want to crack at it, but I've got lots and lots of footage. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
tons of. I took this 4K GoPro all these different places,
Yeah.
so I've got tons and tons of footage that could be for somebody who's got the time and the skill. Um,
Yeah.
that could be kind of cut together into something kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
I and that's the trip. I'm super excited at the prospect of doing a doctorate degree in adaptive sailing and continuing the relationship, you
Yeah.
know, um, and yeah, that's that's the trip.
That is incredible. And really, like you said, like so serendipitous, so, everything aligned. Yeah, that
Yeah,
that would be really cool to keep that relationship going and to, really focus your research on that. And yeah, that sounds very exciting to, maybe keep that moving.
absolutely.
Yeah. I have a question for you after hearing it all. So you're saying, and which is so interesting, that you have to be, university degree to be a coach. Do they, and then masters in, sports specific, is that the same with the unified and adaptive? Like would that be your masters to be the unified adaptive, or is, where that falls in that uh,
Yeah,
training?
I think that is part of the masters, because when I was talking to Mariana about it, she was, so they have the bachelor's, the master's, and the PhD.
Yeah.
Um, and so she was talking to me about potentially doing a PhD over there. So the unified side of it, when we were in Nessebar, and actually through all the sports, we had their students of the National Sports Academy were the coaches, and
Mm.
then some of their actual professors were also coaches.
Yeah.
So we had all different levels. Um, I can imagine. I can't answer that definitively right now, but I can get the answer for you,
Mm.
because we have the whole WhatsApp thing going and all that. Um, but I can imagine that the unified side of it is a specialization that happens probably at the master's level.
Mhm.
That's my guess, but it's just
Yeah.
my guess. But like to see their coaches or their student coaches work with all these different sports and with athletes of all different abilities, it was remarkable because they had such a sensitivity for the individual's needs.
Yeah.
They wouldn't make somebody stand up on the stand-up paddleboard if they weren't ready for it, but they would challenge them in OT. They call it the just right challenge. They would
Mhm.
get them to that point where they were just past their comfort zone, so that they could just push themselves a little bit and maybe get up and stand up, and that's enough, and then they get back down, right? So and they did that so well that you would think they were therapists, you
Yeah.
know. The same thing like with the horseback riding. So they had people with Down syndrome and all types of MR riding horses, and
Mm.
um, you know, going through these sessions, and they were telling us how, like the coach for that program, she was saying how one person that she was working with in particular couldn't lift her arms over her head. She
Mm.
didn't have enough strength to lift her arms all the way up, right? So there was like this happening. Um, but after this horseback riding program, where she makes them sit on a horse and hold their arms out and up and do all
Mm.
kinds of trunk rotation stuff, um, she's now able to do it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think it. If I had to guess, I would say that's the master's level of the program, but
Yeah.
I can't say it for sure at this time.
Yeah.
I'll find out.
Yeah. It's really interesting to see it, one, coaching in general to be so specialized like that, but two, like you're saying, these coaches have that, such a range of skills of, like they're in therapy and, have all of that they can then bring to, all types of, people who want to just participate in the sports. That's really fantastic.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And then I have a question.
Yeah.
Obviously, like you've as an adaptive sailing instructor, you've seen the manual and you brought the manual with you. What did you think that what did you learn from U.S. Sailing's adaptive courses that you thought you could bring to theirs, or like vice versa? How exactly did that did like those two modes of teaching feel different and similar? I think you kind of covered it, but to get into a little bit more detail.
Well, I mean, the whole thing, like when Betsy, I took the class with Betsy. I took the certification with Betsy. She came here to our Inwood location to do the adaptive sailing instructor class a couple of years ago. And I remember going through her class and thinking, wow, this is very much like OT on the water. It's very much taking things and doing like kind of low tech, think outside the box solutions, like taking a plastic chair and cutting two legs off so that it can sit on the bench or something like that. And so the whole like build a box thing to build a step, I would say, I don't know if it says specifically in the manual, build a box, but it's that same kind of like look at your environment and look at what simple solution can you put in place that doesn't cost a lot of money, it may not make the boat accessible to 100% of people, but it might increase the accessibility to at least, maybe 70%, 80% of people, right? So that was emphasized, I think, in Betsy's class and in the manual. And so that was the starting point working with them. So thank you, US Sailing.
That's awesome. Anything else on your mind?
Yeah, and like I don't want to like limit it to one or two sentences, but in like a couple sentences, what was your like biggest takeaway from this trip?
Let's see. Probably 10 pounds. No, just so my biggest takeaway from the trip would be how unified sports is the future. It is the future. Like as a sailor, and you two are sailors, we want to see the whole world as sailing. And that was probably, I was a pain in their butts asking, but when are we doing, when are we sailing, when are we sailing, when are we going on the water, when is the Black Sea, but the idea of making all of our sports, especially sailing, accessible to people who have all different abilities is the future. Is the future. And it is in Bulgaria. It is here in the States. It is with the community sailing movement. It is with the adaptive sailing movement. I'd say that's the biggest takeaway.
Cool.
Unified sports is the future.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, do you have anything else?
I don't know. That is better than I could have imagined, Yona. And I'm so happy you got to meet James and take him out sailing. I hope you splash some water on him, give him a little bit of a hard time, but
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
fantastic. That's really
I
incredible.
do want to throw this in there also. So as a participant in this program, okay, apparently I get access to some sort of grants. Okay. The first of which is a very humble $400 to do to do a community impact project. And what I'd
cool.
like to do my community impact project on is sponsoring at least in part, a day of adaptive sailing here in New York.
Awesome.
I wanted to work with the schools, but you know how difficult they are. So it might be like with the VA. We have partnerships with the VA and with other organizations here in New York. So I plan on using my $400 to buy pizza and make T-shirts.
Yeah.
And I already have one company. I work for. Have you ever heard of the Nautical School? The Nautical School. They're on Long Island.
Sounds familiar, maybe.
They help people get their U.S. Coast Guard captain's license. So I have my captain's license, and this school helps them do that. And I teach for them as well. I help that, and so I got the Nautical School to do a matching. So they're gonna match the 400. So we'll get a little more money to buy a little more pizza, and maybe get some T-shirts. So that's a positive plug-in for the Nautical School in Lindenhurst on Long Island.
Yeah.
And so then after that, there might be additional grants, and there might to carry everything forward. So I just wanted to throw that out there too.
Yeah, that is really cool. Yeah, even if it's pizza money, a little can go a long way.
Absolutely, because we have the adaptive events at HRCS, but a lot of times, they don't have the food or it'd be cool to throw some T-shirts at people,
Yeah. So. Yeah, spread the word some more, wearing around your T-shirt. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is awesome. I'm so glad to hear it. And hopefully more where that came from, if you're right, if there are other grants to be had.
Yeah, so stay tuned. If there are, maybe, I don't know if it's you that I'll reach out to or if it's Betsy, because I'd love to do more with U.S. Sailing. Betsy was fabulous with her support, and the whole nonprofit, thing is just, it's inspiring. So I don't know, like if it would be you or Betsy or whoever to reach out if we could do more stuff, maybe with Claggett or something like that.
Yeah. I think any one of us works, and we will definitely involve the right people on our side. But anything you have to share with us, we are always open doors. Ready for it.
And also, if I do this doctorate work in adaptive sailing, same thing. I'd love to do something with U.S. Sailing as an organization, because you guys have been so supportive, and I heard about this opportunity through you. I want to give back.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely keep us in the loop, even if whether it works out of doing something together or not. We want to hear how it goes for sure.
Okay.
Yona, anything else you'd like to add, share?
I think that's the gist of it. I mean, if I think of anything, I'll send you an email or something like that.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
It was a pleasure.
And definitely send us over those photos and any videos, your YouTube shorts. That would be really awesome.
Yeah. So I'll send you a link with with my YouTube channel. I also have on there videos of from when I did the Atlantic Ocean crossing from Lanzarote to Canary Islands, and I
Oh.
recorded some of it on my phone and just
That's so
edited
cool.
that and put together a couple videos on there. Did you want me to, like, do you have someone that does like video editing over there?
Yeah,
I don't know. Is that
I can.
more your world?
Yeah, me or Quentin.
Yeah.
Like because if we turn this into a story, I can make a reel.
Yeah.
To accompany it on Instagram.
That'd
So
be really cool.
yeah, if it's not too much effort. Some of you are like, I mean, I can't, probably won't be able to use all of it because this is going to be for like a social bit, which is pretty short. So if you want to like pick your whatever videos you think are the best out of that and then send it to us, I can definitely edit that into something.
Okay, I'll look through it. It's like 900.
Wait, yeah, it's hard to transfer big. You said 4K, like narrowing down the number of videos will help.
Huge.
Yes,
Yeah.
They get really, really big. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually downloading something from someone's going to take them their 2 hours from one day of content. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that is not my world. So good luck to you.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look out for that. Can't wait to watch your stuff too. I'm so excited to see it.
Can that be emailed, or is that the kind of thing that you have to put on a drive and mail it?
I would say either like Google Drive or like there's a site called WeTransfer. It's just WeTransfer. That's free and lets you transfer images and like a big images and video. I use it a lot. I would say WeTransfer is probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's a great one. It just turns it into a link.
Yeah.
Spell it.
WeTransfer. That's just a transfer.
Is it like .com or anything?
.com
Probably.
Yep.
Video transfer. Okay.
And it's super intuitive to use. I mean, like yeah. You don't need instructions. You'll get on it and be like, okay, there's one button here. Yeah.
My phone is. I think I got it right. There we go. Okay. Can you see me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. That's a good
Awesome.
tip. And then I would transfer it to Michaela, or.
Yeah, you could send it to the two of us. I think we're both on the event invite, or either one of us. But I'll send it along to Lexi.
Okay. Awesome. Can you send me the video of this interview that you recorded?
Yes, definitely.
That'd be great. It's interesting. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not doing the recording. I'm just doing the talking.
Yeah, it helps to have it all together.
Yeah,
I will definitely send that to you. Yeah.
Sweet.
Awesome. And we will share the story, or whatever post it ends up being with you first. If we need names or any other kind of editing questions, Lexi will send that all over first before anything is put out into the world, so you will see it before others.
And what you're gonna do is a write up or a video, or
probably a write up, and then if we get some of your video content, I might make a reel to accompany it on social media. But we're mostly focused on the like newsroom story type deal.
Okay, gotcha. Sweet.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, Yona. So great to talk to you and so great to meet you. And we will be in touch for sure.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Nicola.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.